I thought it was just a slap. It was a regular Tuesday. We were bickering over something petty, maybe the food was cold or I forgot to take the trash out again. He snapped. 1 second we were shouting, the next his palm struck my face. It was quick, harsh, and unexpected. We both froze. His expression changed instantly, eyes wide, panicked. He said it wasn't on purpose, that it was a mistake. He apologized again and again, held me tight, cried into my shoulder. Said he didn't know what came over him. He promised it would never happen again. And I believed him. The next day, he brought home flowers. Made my favorite dinner. Told me he'd been overwhelmed at work. I told myself people make mistakes. I convinced myself that love meant forgiveness. But it didn't stop there. Next time, it wasn't just words, it was him calling me useless, then pathetic. He yanked my arm, shoved me, later pulled my hair. Each time, he'd apologize. Say it would be the last. It never was. I stopped telling friends. I knew what they'd say. They'd tell me to walk away, and I wasn't ready for that. I still believed I could fix it, that the man I loved was still somewhere inside him. But he kept changing. He got worse. It became routine. At first it wasn't every day, just sometimes. Then it was every other day. Then every day. He figured out where to hit me so no one would notice, my ribs, the backs of my arms, my thighs. He'd lash out if I walked too loudly. If I blinked wrong. If I didn't look interested when he talked. I learned to stay still. To make myself invisible. I stopped wearing shorts. Avoided mirrors. Avoided people. The girl I used to be started fading from view. Some nights, after it was over, I'd lie on the kitchen tiles, gasping for air. The floor was white with tiny blue dots. I memorized those dots. It was all I could do while waiting for the world to come back. I didn't tell anyone. Not a neighbor. Not a doctor. Not even my mom. I was sure no one would believe me. Or worse, they would, and still do nothing. I thought I was the only one. I never expected anyone to ever find out. Not until his boss walked in. I met Jason at a party through mutual friends. He wasn't loud or flashy. Just had this magnetic ease about him. Handsome, sure, but it was more than that, he made people feel like they mattered. He came straight over to me like we already knew each other. I was standing alone near the drinks. Within minutes, I was laughing. I had completely forgotten how much I hadn't wanted to be there. He texted me the next morning. Then again that night. And again the following day. He said I was different. That I didn't try too hard. That I felt real. That he could talk to me. He told me I was special. And I believed him. I felt like the center of his universe. 2 months later, I lost my job. Jason pulled some strings and got me hired at his office. It was just basic admin stuff, but it helped. He told me he liked seeing me succeed, that he wanted to provide for me. At the time, it felt like love. My friends weren't convinced. Some said he was too much, too fast. They said something about him felt off. But I brushed it off. Said they were jealous. They didn't get what it felt like to have someone show up, who made an effort, who went the extra mile. Looking back, I see the shift now. It started small. Questions about who I was texting. Why I was wearing makeup to work. Why I wanted to go out when he was home waiting. He said he just wanted to protect me, from other guys, from bad people. Then I realized he knew my phone's password. He said it was for emergencies. Then came the wardrobe changes. He didn't like that dress. That top was too tight. So he bought new clothes for me. Simple. Modest. I love you natural, he'd say. I stopped dressing for myself. I started dressing to avoid arguments. The first time he pushed me, we were fighting about a coworker who had complimented me. I said it didn't mean anything. Jason grabbed me, shoved me hard. I stumbled. My breath caught. He looked shocked too, like it surprised him. The next day, he apologized. Took me to dinner. Said he was just scared to lose me. Said he'd been hurt before. That it wasn't me, it was his past. I told myself it wasn't abuse. That he just loved me too much. Back then, the warning signs weren't red, they were light pink, wrapped in apologies and gentle words. By the time I realized I was trapped, the door had already closed, that first year vanished like fog. I kept telling myself it was just growing pains, that relationships go through phases, that we were still adjusting. But this wasn't compromise. It was slow erosion. Bit by bit, Jason was changing the rules, and I kept trying to follow them. He started telling me how my male coworkers looked at me, like he could read their thoughts. He said it was disrespectful. That they made him feel like less of a man. A real partner wouldn't let that happen, he said. So I quit. He made it sound noble. Let me take care of you, he told me. You'll never have to worry about anything. At first, it felt romantic. Safe. But the silence crept in. My phone stopped lighting up. My friends stopped reaching out after I said no one too many times. I faded out of my own life. Then came the camera. Just one, installed in the living room. It's just for security, Jason said. I want to keep you safe when I'm gone. But I could feel it watching me, when I folded laundry, when I sat too long, when I talked on the phone. He asked me questions I hadn't even realized had answers. Why were you sitting at 3 p.m.? Who was that on the phone? One night, he got upset that I was online for too long. He said I was probably talking to someone. Someone like you doesn't need social media, he muttered. The next morning, the Wi-Fi password was changed. I asked him about it. He shrugged and said the router was acting up. But somehow, Netflix still worked. Then the car keys disappeared. The brakes are bad, he said. I don't want you getting hurt. I knew it wasn't true. But I didn't argue. I stopped arguing a long time ago. My world shrank to the four walls around me. So, I started writing. Just a few lines at a time. In a cheap notebook tucked behind a drawer in the kitchen. It became the only place I could still speak, even if it was just to myself. It didn't feel like much, but it was mine. I'd write about little things, how many times he yelled that day, how long I cried, the date. My handwriting was shaky. Some pages stained with tears. But it was real. One morning, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. Same eyes. Same cheekbones. But everything else was faded. Dim, like I was only halfway here. That was the moment I knew I wasn't me anymore. I was just someone surviving inside her own skin. Then came the test. 2 pink lines. It was a rainy Thursday. The clouds hung low like the sky itself was holding its breath. I stared at the pregnancy test, shaking. I sat on the cold edge of the tub, clutching the plastic stick like it might take it back. When I told Jason, he went silent. His expression didn't change at first. Then he exploded. He hurled the test across the room. Punched a hole in the drywall so hard I heard the studs crack. Called me selfish. Careless. Accused me of trapping him, like I'd planned it. I backed into a corner, stunned. But the next day, his voice changed. He said we'd keep it. He said we had no choice. Said it was our duty now. But the words felt heavy, like a punishment, not love. Not even close. He didn't stop hitting me. He just changed where he hit. Never the stomach. Just everywhere else. He shoved me into walls, slapped my face, dug his fingers into my arms so hard I had bruises shaped like his grip. I flinched when the wind changed. Every small sound made me jump. I stopped sleeping. I was constantly sick, headaches, nausea, chest tightness. But Jason wouldn't let me go to a doctor. He said doctors ask too many questions. We don't need them, he said. You're fine. Then came the night I lost it. It started with cramps, sharp, unrelenting. I curled up on the bathroom floor, biting a towel to muffle my screams. Hours passed. I bled so much I thought I'd faint. The tiles were cold against my spine. I knew, without question, that it was over. I didn't tell Jason right away. I cleaned everything. Wiped the floor. Flushed it all like it never happened. I couldn't feel anything. Just numb. Hollow. Like something had been scooped out of me. Days later, I told him. His face barely shifted. Then he said flatly, "You probably didn't take care of it right. Like I killed it." I nodded. Said nothing. Didn't even cry. Not in front of him. Not anymore. That week, I found myself standing in the kitchen, holding a knife. Not to hurt him. Not even to hurt myself. Just holding it. Wondering. Wondering what silence might feel like. What it would be like if it all just stopped. Just me, and nothing. Then I caught my reflection in the oven glass. My hair was a mess. Cheek bruised. Eyes so tired I looked 50. But in that second, I remembered a girl who used to dance in parking lots, who laughed until she cried, who believed in second chances. She was buried deep, but not gone. And I wasn't ready to bury her. Not yet. When Jason got his promotion, I had hope. A fragile, flickering kind of hope. He was gone more often, long hours, late-night meetings, work trips. I could finally breathe without hearing footsteps behind me. But with his new position came a new version of him, one that walked taller, talked louder, acted like the whole world owed him something. Like I was just one more thing he owned. One day, he came home with boxes. Smart home equipment. Cameras, motion sensors, voice commands. It's all for safety, he told me. So I can check in and make sure you're okay. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He set them up in the living room, kitchen, hallway, even the bedroom. Every corner of the house had blinking red lights now. And so did I. He could see everything. And he made sure I knew it. From work, he'd text me things like, "Why are you sitting down again?" or "Why were you on the phone at 2:07? Sometimes he'd just call to whisper, "I'm watching." And he was. I moved slower. Talked less. Avoided eye contact with the cameras. I was a ghost pacing the same few steps, trying not to be noticed in my own home. One night, something happened. A glitch. One of the hallway cameras cut out. The screen went black. Jason noticed immediately. When he got home, he was already furious. Said I had tampered with it. I hadn't even touched it. But it didn't matter. He slammed my head against the wall so hard I couldn't see straight. Bright spots danced across my vision. I think I passed out for a second. It didn't matter that the system had failed on its own. It only mattered that he had someone to blame. After that, the violence didn't come more often, just without pattern. I could never predict it. A sock left on the floor. A dish not cleaned properly. A tone he didn't like. I was a bug under a magnifying glass. Watched. Judged. Crushed. But something shifted one night, something I hadn't expected. Jason fell asleep early, snoring on the couch. I found his tablet and, without really planning to, I opened the home app. I needed to know. I needed to see how deep it went. That's when I saw it. There wasn't just his account logged into the camera system. There was another. A second username. Someone else had access. Someone else had been watching the footage, watching me. I didn't know who. I didn't know for how long. But I stared at the log history, frozen. My skin crawled. It wasn't just Jason controlling me. Someone else had been in the walls of my life, looking in. And Jason had no idea. Then came the night everything shattered. It started with the door slamming open. Jason came home like a storm brewing. His face was tight. His shoulders tense. The air felt electric with rage. "I lost the Anderson deal," he snapped. "Do you even care?" He threw his briefcase, pacing. "You don't. Of course you don't. You're just here, wasting space, like always." I said nothing. I'd learned that silence was safer than any words. "Say something," he yelled, picking up the remote and flinging it at the wall. It broke into sharp plastic shards. "I'm sorry," I whispered. That was the wrong answer. He lunged. Grabbed me. Threw me into the kitchen. My side slammed against the counter. Air gone. I tried to steady myself on the cabinet, but he shoved me again. My head hit the frame. I crumpled to the floor. Blood dripped near my eye. I tasted metal. "Stupid," he hissed above me. "You ruin everything. Every damn thing." But then a voice came from behind. "Jason." It froze the air like glass mid-shatter. We both turned. Standing in the entryway was a man. Button-down shirt. Dark coat. Holding a folder in one hand. It was Mark, Jason's boss. He looked between us, at my bloodied face, Jason's clenched fists, the shattered remote, the tension in the room. He didn't say anything. Not at first. He walked to the hallway table. Placed the folder down slowly. Looked at Jason. Then at me. Then back at Jason. Jason's mouth opened. This isn't what it looks like. She fell. She does this. She lies, makes up stuff." Mark didn't speak. He turned around. Walked out. Jason didn't move. Neither did I. For the first time in 3 years, I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen before, fear. The rest of the night was a blur. Jason didn't yell again. He didn't touch me. He just paced. Muttered to himself. Tried to convince himself it could be fixed. "He won't do anything," Jason kept saying. "He likes me. I'll explain everything. She's unstable. She hurts herself." He spent the next hour rehearsing excuses, explanations, lies. I didn't say a word. I sat on the kitchen floor, holding a towel to my bleeding head. Everything throbbed. The silence between us buzzed like static. Around 5 in the morning, I finally closed my eyes. At 7:12 a.m., the doorbell rang. Jason answered, still shirtless, trying to fake calm. 2 police officers stood at the door. "Jason Keller," one asked. Jason smiled nervously. "That's me." "What's this up?" He didn't finish. They stepped in. Handcuffed him. No warnings. No words. He shouted, swore, demanded answers. They ignored him. I stood in the hallway, clutching the wall. One of the officers looked at me. He didn't ask questions. He just said, gently, "We're getting you help." Most of what came next is a blur. Someone helped me into a car. I don't remember who. At the hospital, they said I had a mild concussion. 2 cracked ribs. Dark bruising across my shoulders and back. A nurse gently touched my hand and whispered, "You're safe now." That's when I broke. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. My body shook. My voice vanished. But I felt something shift, like I was surfacing after years underwater. Later, a detective came to speak with me. She told me Jason's boss, Mark, had already filed a report. He didn't just walk out that night. He went straight to the police. He'd suspected something for a while, she said. He had access to part of the home surveillance setup Jason used. He didn't see everything, but he'd seen enough. Enough to know something wasn't right. Enough to start documenting it. He waited for proof, irrefutable, undeniable proof. That night, when he saw Jason throw me, it was the final piece. He made the call before leaving the house. He didn't say a word to us because he was already in motion. Court felt colder than I expected. Not just the temperature. The air. The walls. The eyes watching. I sat in the front row with my hands tightly folded, trying not to shake. My heart beat like a drum inside my chest. Jason sat just feet away in a suit and tie. Clean cut. Calm. Like the man I'd once trusted. Not the one who broke my bones. Not the man who erased me piece by piece. He wouldn't look at me. His lawyer started first. Said I was unstable. Said I had emotional issues. Said I manipulated stories for attention. They called me dramatic. Said I had a drinking problem. That I hurt myself to frame him. Jason took the stand and cried. Said I screamed at him. That I was violent. That I made things up. That I turned people against him. He played the victim perfectly. I didn't respond. I kept my head high, even as my fists clenched beneath the table. I wanted to scream. I wanted to leap across the room and show them every scar. But I stayed silent. I waited. Then it was our turn. They brought out my journal. The notebook I had hidden under old envelopes and in used coupons. Every line I wrote was read out loud. Dates. Incidents. The way his voice changed before he struck. The nights I slept on the kitchen floor. The ink had smeared from my tears, but the words were there. Mine. Then came the footage. Not all of it. But enough. Clips of Jason shouting in my face. One of him slamming a glass on the floor inches from me. Another where he threw open a door so fast it nearly hit me. And then, the one that silenced the room, he dragged me by the wrist across the kitchen floor while I sobbed and begged him to let go. No one moved. No one breathed. Even Jason stopped fidgeting. Then Mark testified. He explained how he noticed something was wrong. How he accessed parts of the cloud system Jason assumed were private. How he saw things, real things, things he couldn't unsee. This wasn't a mistake, Mark told the court. It was abuse. Then it was my turn. I stood up slowly. My knees wobbled, but I held steady. I looked straight at Jason. His face was stone. No more tears. No more charm. My name is Emily, I said, voice even. And for 3 years, I disappeared inside my own home. I looked at the judge. The jury. Then back to him. You told me no one would believe me. That I'd be nothing without you. But you were wrong. I took a breath. A deep, anchoring breath. You don't get to be the one who tells my story anymore. And for the first time since it all began, I believed every word. The verdict came days later. Jason was sentenced to 12 years in prison. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just sat quietly. The weight of it all settled over me, not justice exactly, but something close. A beginning. A clearing in the fog. I moved out of the house the next week. Into a small apartment just on the edge of town. 1 bedroom. Faded wood floors. A tiny balcony barely wide enough for a chair. But it was mine. No cameras. No silence filled with fear. No one watching me eat or breathe or sit too long. Just me. I started therapy. Twice a week. The early sessions were heavy. I didn't know how to put words to what I had lived through. But the therapist listened. She didn't push. Just waited. Slowly, I started to breathe again. Then I found a support group. Other women. Women who had worn the same silence I had. Who had swallowed screams for years. Who had been told they were crazy, dramatic, unstable. And survived. We cried together. Laughed sometimes, too. For the first time, I didn't feel broken. I felt, known. One night, I opened my laptop and just started writing. No real plan. No name. Just truth. I wrote everything. The things I swore I'd never say out loud, the gaslighting, the bruises, the silence, the miscarriage, the courtroom, the aftermath. I poured it all into a blog post and uploaded it anonymously. Then I closed the laptop and walked away. 3 days later, it had over 200,000 views. The comments came flooding in. Some from strangers. Some from women who had lived their own versions of what I wrote. Some just wrote, "Me too." Others said, "I thought I was the only one." I read every word. I cried at most of them. For the first time, my pain didn't echo in an empty room. It echoed back. And then something happened I didn't see coming. Other women started speaking up. Women who had dated Jason before me. Women I had never met. One wrote that he'd controlled her, too. Took her phone. Watched her through her laptop camera. Another said he pushed her down once and laughed about it later. One woman said he always made her feel small, like she was broken and needed fixing. Piece by piece, I saw the pattern stretch out beyond me. It was never just me. It had always been him. And now, finally, people believed it. My words weren't just a release. They were a signal. Proof. Power. A path for others to follow. My voice mattered, not just for me, but for every woman who'd ever been told to stay quiet. I still have rough nights. Bad dreams. Some evenings I sleep with the lights on. I still flinch if someone raises their voice too fast. But I wake up in a space that belongs to me. I make my coffee the way I like it. I go for walks. I smile at strangers. I talk without fear. And every time I share my story, I get a little more of myself back. 7 months had passed since the sentencing when it happened. I was waiting in line at this quiet coffee shop on a gray Wednesday morning when I heard someone say my name. Emily. I turned, and there he was. Mark. A little thinner. A little more tired around the eyes. But still with that same grounded calm he had in the courtroom. He held a black coffee in one hand and a paperback book in the other. We both smiled. No awkwardness. No tension. Just something still and steady between us. We sat near the window. He told me he left the company a few weeks after the trial. Some clients had complained he got too personal. Said he overstepped. But he didn't regret it. I was done pretending that numbers were more important than people, he said. I don't regret what I did, he added. If I had walked out that night and said nothing, I'd have to live with that for the rest of my life. I looked down at my hands, remembering that night. The blood. The way I was sure no one would ever help me. The way I stopped believing anyone ever would. I'm just glad you didn't, I said. He looked at me, really looked, and said, your silence was loud, Emily, but your courage. Even louder. Those words stayed with me. A few weeks later, I applied for a job at a nonprofit that supports women recovering from domestic abuse. They didn't know who I was, not at first. Just that I had experience. That I'd been through something. That I understood. During the interview, I didn't list trauma like a resume. I just said, I want to help women feel seen. To remind them that survival isn't just about escaping, it's about rebuilding. Becoming yourself again. They hired me. Now, I sit at a desk in a small office with worn chairs and soft lighting. Women walk in with trembling voices and guarded eyes. Some are ready to talk. Others aren't. That's okay. I don't try to fix anyone. I don't tell them what to do. I just listen. And when they're ready, I help with the next step, whatever that is. Sometimes it's a safety plan. Sometimes it's shelter. Sometimes it's sitting in silence and holding their hand. Not pushing. Just being there. One night, after a long shift, I opened the old notebook I used to hide in the kitchen drawer. The last few pages were blank. My handwriting was still jagged, like it hadn't caught up with my new life yet. I picked up a pen. And I wrote one final line. I survived. But more than that. I lived. Please subscribe to my channel. And like the video. And share it with your friends. Thanks for watching.